Got it. Oh shoot, I hit record. All right, now we're moving on to parent functions. So our first one is a parabola. Oh my gosh, my whole desktop went away. Oh, all right, let's try again. Parent functions parabola. So you should be thinking this is a U shape. Man, my handwriting is atrocious on this thing. So you start at 0, 0, you go up 1 over 1, and you make a nice U shape. That was terrible. Make sure yours is nice. The domain for this function, remember we did this last chapter, is we can put anything in for x, so it's negative infinity to infinity. But the range is from 0, because that's the lowest point, up to positive infinity. Square root, you should be thinking swimmer's arm. So we start at 0, 0, we go up 1 over 1, and we draw in our nice swimmer's arm. The domain for this one starts at 0 in the x direction and goes to positive infinity. And the range also starts at 0 and goes to positive infinity. Absolute value, you should be thinking V shape. So you start at 0, 0, up 1 over 1 on both sides, and instead of making a U, you make a nice straight V. Remember, the slope of this is normally up 1 over 1, so when you start stretching, that's when that changes. Again, just like the parabola, you can put anything in for x. Those arrows mean it's going to go on forever in the left direction and on forever in the right. But the very bottom of this only goes to 0, and then it goes to positive infinity. This last one thing to point out is the half circle and the swimmer's arm, or the square root. Both have square root signs. What you need to look for is 1 minus x squared under the square root. That tells you it's a half circle. In this case, we have the top half because it's positive. If I had the negative part, I'd have the bottom half. So I always want you to find your center. In this case, the radius is just 1, so it's this tiny half circle right here. So the domain goes from negative 1 to 1. And the range, the very bottom of it is 0. The very top is 1. Again, if I had the negative part, I'd just be getting the bottom portion. Right, let's move on to some solving. So this is a square function, which means you should be thinking I should give 2 solutions, because when you graphically think about it, it crosses twice, so you should give me 2 solutions. So the first step is subtract 5 from both sides. I get x minus 1 squared equals 23 minus 5 is 18. Then I can square root. Excuse me, I cannot square root yet. Take that back. I forgot to copy my 2 down out front, so the next step would be to divide by 2. So I get x minus 1 squared equals 9. Now I can square root. So I get x minus 1 equals, the square root of 9 is 3 and negative 3. So this is where you get that plus and minus coming into play. So when I finish solving this, I add 1. My first solution is x equals 4. I add 1 to this one. My second solution is x equals negative 2. Now what you should always do is take that answer and plug it into your original one. So 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Times 2 is 18. Plus 5 gives you 23. So you checked your answer to make sure it worked. Right. The next one is a square root, or a swimmer's arm. Meaning graphically, this is what I have. I get it to graph. So you're only going to be getting one answer because it only crosses once. To solve this, I'm going to add 1 to both sides first. So I get 5 square root x plus 3 equals 30. Then I got to get rid of the 5, so I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides. That says 30, not 50. I get the square root of x plus 3 equals 6. Now I can square. And anything squared is always going to be positive, so I get 36. And then minus 3 for my last step. I get x equals 33. Next to solving our absolute value. Recall that an absolute value is the V shape. And so when I draw a line through it, you should get two solutions. So the first one's pretty easy. All I'm down to is the absolute value. Now we can break this into, it could be positive 5 in there, or since the absolute value makes everything positive, it could also mean that the inside was originally negative. So when I subtract 2, my first answer is x equals 3. My second answer is x equals negative 7. And again, you should always plug these back in to see if they work. So 3 plus 2 is 5. Absolute value of 5 is 5. Negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. The absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. So I got this right. Right. Next one, I'm going to minus 3 from both sides. Get the absolute value of y plus 5 equals 9. Here's where I can split it into two parts because I don't know whether it was positive or negative. So I have a positive 9. Oops. Or I could have a negative 9. Okay, so minus 5 on this side. My first solution is y could equal 4. Minus 5 on this one. My second solution is y could equal negative 14. Great. We're going to move on to the third page, so if you want to see the next answers, watch the next video.